I saw one there.
No, I will tell him he's not honest, but he cannot stop.
I'm glad you gave me time to comb my hair. So I can look at my
Okay, I'm
vest.
reading.
I got this one.
I'm reading from John chapter 9. John chapter 9. And as Jesus passed by, now Jesus was up at the temple. He had been on the Mount of Olives, and then he made his way over to the temple. And doing amazing things up in the temple, and that's in John chapter 8, and you can read that whole account. It's an amazing chapter. But in John chapter 9, as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, that this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, you can see their theology. If something bad happens to you, if you have an infirmity, that it must be related to sin in your life, right? Well, I can tell you, and this is biblical, that sin as an operating principle, the reason that we have all of the ills of the world, our health, rape, robbery, crime, all of the ills of planet Earth through all of human history is a result of sin as an operating principle. The virus of sin has tainted all of humanity. But here, there's a man who's blind. And the disciples asked Jesus, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither hath this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. Did you get that? This man was born blind in the sovereign providence of God for a crucial story to be told about Jesus himself. And that story is still being told because of that blind man being blind from birth. More than 2,000 years later, we're still telling the story. Jesus answered, Neither has this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. I must work the works of him that sent me, while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay in the spittle. And he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay, and said unto him, Go, wash in the pool of Siloam. Right here. Authentic location, no question about it. Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way therefore and washed, and came away seeing. The neighbors therefore, and they which before had seen him that was blind, said, Is this not he that sat and begged? Some said, This is he. And others said, He's like him, but he said, I am he. Therefore said they unto him, How were your eyes opened? And he answered and said, A man that is called Jesus made clay, and anointed my eyes, and said unto me, Go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed, and received sight. And they said unto him, Where is he? And he said, I don't know. They brought to the Pharisees him that aforetime was blind. So they brought him to the Pharisees. And it was the Sabbath day when Jesus had made the clay and opened the man's eyes. Then again the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight, and he said unto them, He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and I see now. Therefore said some of the Pharisees, This man is not of God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath day. And others said, How can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? And there was a division among them. And they said unto the blind man again, What sayest thou of him, that he opened thine eyes? He said, He is a prophet. But the Jews did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind, and received sight. So they called his parents of him, and asked him about him receiving his sight. They said, Is this the guy? They asked, saying, "Is this your son, who ye say was born blind? How then does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind." Can you imagine his parents? They vouched for it. They knew him. This is him. But by what means he now seeth, we don't know. Or who hath opened his eyes, we don't know. But he is of age, ask him, he shall speak for himself. These words, listen, the pressure of the day, these words spoke his parents because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if any man did confess that Jesus was the Christ, that he would be put out of the synagogue. Therefore, his parents said, "He's of age, ask him. Ask him." Then again they called the blind man, or the man that had been blind, and said unto him, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." He answered and said, "Whether he be a sinner," speaking of Jesus, "whether he's a sinner or not, I don't know. But one thing I know, where I was blind, now I see. Now I see." Then said they to him again, "What did he do to thee? How did he open your eyes?" And he answered them, "I have told you already, and ye did not hear. Wherefore, would ye hear it again? Will you also be his disciples?" Then they reviled him and said, "Thou art his disciple, but we are Moses' disciples. We know that God spoke unto Moses. And for this fellow we know not from whence he is." The man answered and said unto them, "Why, herein is a marvelous thing, that ye know not from whence he is, and yet he hath opened my eyes. Now we know that God heareth not sinners, but if a man be a worshipper of God, and doeth his will, him he heareth. Since the world began, was it not heard that any man opened the eyes of one that was born blind? If this man were not of God, he could do nothing." They answered and said unto him, "Thou wast altogether born in sins, and dost thou teach us?" And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they cast him out, and when he had found him, he said unto him, "Dost thou believe on the Son of God?" He answered and said, "Who is he, Lord, that I might believe on him?" And Jesus said unto him, "Thou hast both seen him, and it is he that talketh with you right now." And he said, "Lord, I believe." And he worshipped him. And Jesus said, "For judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind." And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, "Are we blind also?" And Jesus said unto them, "If ye were blind, you'd have no sin. But now ye say, We see. Therefore your sin remaineth." So here are those who had all the religiosity, who had all the credentials, all the pomp and circumstance. Everybody knew them, and they thought they saw. And Jesus said, "You're blind." And the one that was born blind, he had faith after God had healed him, and he went away to see. And what a lesson that is to us today. All of it not because that the man or his parents had committed sin. Yes, we all sin and fall short of God's glory. There's none that have never sinned. We all need the righteousness of God through Jesus Christ. But the purpose that this man was born blind was so that in God's providence, Jesus could perform this miracle as a valuable lesson to everyone who would read the scripture, and to all of us, even to this day, who have visited this place. Though we were blind, through Jesus Christ, we see.
Amen.
Amen. Yay.